Alrighty, let's make sure I'm live. Okay, so doing patch notes for 26.02 today, or in this case 26.2 because it's missing the .02 because I hate when they do this. But it's the same difference. It's the second patch of the year, second patch of the season. Let's go. It's our first patch of after the 26.1 changes have hit the Rift, so we're following up in this patch by bringing the big winners down a notch, while we're helping out some champions that have had trouble finding their footing in 2026. On a similar note, we've been reading your feedback about the new changes and are continuing to monitor how they land, and as all of you continue to learn and adapt to them. If you're interested in a deeper dive on our thoughts about how the 26.1 changes landed, make sure to check out the aptly named Thoughts on How 26.1 Landed section below. We'll get to that in a bit. In other news, we've also got Revenant Rain Viego gracing the Rift this patch alongside his 7 beautiful swords, not to mention our newest skin line, Aegis Frame, launching this patch. We've also got some updates to ARAM Mayhem, which I still think they should just rename to Mayram because it's ARAM and with an M at the start as well. And the arena coming out this week. And let's not forget the return of AERF. And last but certainly not least, we have our first Clash of the Year happening this weekend with the Demacia Cup. As always, thanks for reading, and we'll see you on the Rift. Alrighty, so we've got changes to Gwen, Jace, Lilia, Malphite, Nunu, Sivir, Smolder, and Zed. These are all nerfs. Buffs to Aatrox, Ashe, Master Yi, Taliyah, Varus, and Viego. Then we've got system changes. We have nerfs to Bandle Pipes, buffs to Fiend Hunter Bolts, and Hexoptic C44. And we've got new skins for Samira, Briar, Ornn, Galio, and the new Viego one, which I'm really excited for Revenant Rain Viego. Alrighty, thoughts on how 26.1 landed. Phalites and Vision. We've read a lot of feedback about these changes, but at this point we're still gathering data and analyzing these changes' impacts on how games are playing out. We're hesitant to make large system changes at this time while everyone is learning how to navigate these changes, but right now we're seeing the way everyone is playing around these updates rapidly evolve across all skill levels and ranks, as all of you have more time to get reps in with them. That said, Jungler Impact and General Vision Uptime are both topics we're watching closely, and we're considering options to address them in 16.3. Last I heard, they're looking to nerf Phalites and Vision Uptime in 16.3 in the next patch, since technically this patch still hasn't gone live. Snowballing and game length. For the most part, our metrics around snowballing have come in, and they're not looking any higher than last season. For average play or lower. This is pretty much the same across every region. Game time is also looking slightly longer in each region, and even more so given that the game starts earlier. I know Freak was like, the way he worded the fact that matches are going like a minute longer, like 60 seconds longer, made him seem like that was a concern, like they needed to potentially look into shortening match lengths. And I'm like, 1 extra minute, considering it's a 30-minute on average game time, 30 something on average game time, like 1 extra minute compared to last year, why is that even a slight concern? Nonetheless, something you're potentially looking into fixing. But yeah, at the same time, players have reported that games feel a lot faster. We've looked into this a bit and have a few hypotheses. Less downtime with more frequent minion spawns and home guards can contribute to feeling like there's constant action happening. Hitting towers and getting those chunks of damage from crystalline overgrowth both feel more rewarding and more confronting on the receiving end. So it feels like progress is being made faster, even if it's not actually that much faster. Basically, the game is feeling more oomph at all points, which just makes things feel faster when things are happening. Even when those things aren't actually that impactful, or compared to other relative things. Barons are being taken earlier since they're spawning at 20 minutes again. That said, Baron takes are a bit weaker than they were before. Baron gives it gives 150 gold to each player rather than 300 like it used to. So games don't typically end after the first Baron push. Players have often associated the first Baron take with the game being over, but that is proving to be a bit less of the case this season. I'm seeing this a lot, actually. Like, first Barons are not ending games, and it actually feels kind of nice to not have the first Baron immediately end the game. We'll see if that's just because of early season chaos, and if people start being able to end the game with first Baron, especially in higher ranks, a lot more effectively. For now, we're not going to make any changes to snowballing and game length, but we'll continue to monitor how things play out. I know they're eyeballing the extra minute length that matches are having. That concerns me. I don't think a minute extra should be any kind of concern. Especially when people are feeling like matches are happening faster. Like, I don't think an extra 60 seconds should be anywhere on the radar, especially when it comes to other things needing changes. Alright, Aegis of Valor. Aegis of Valor has landed in a pretty good spot, and we have resolved a bug that was affecting less than 2% of cases where players would be eligible for Aegis but not receive it. I have not gotten Aegis once, and I only play Jungle Role. Granted, I've only done a few matches after my initial 5, but still. I feel like since it's supposedly guaranteed on autofill, at least that's the way they've made it sound, it should be a higher rate when you're playing a priority role that helps matches get queue faster. Like, I understand that could break the game, but if you're picking a role that's low pick rate, even if it's your main, like, you're making matches queue faster. Maybe it shouldn't be a full double, maybe it's 1.5 times the amount of LP you'd normally get if you're picking it and not getting autofilled. That would be a nice little compensation if it's happening more often, to get 1.5 instead of 2 times the amount of LP, and then like half the loss of LP versus the whole loss of LP when you're also picking a priority role. Like, they could tune it so that if you're picking a priority role and not being autofilled, you're getting a little bit less but still getting extra the majority of the time. But it's whatever. We've heard a lot of concerns about abuse cases here, but the best thing to do for Aegis is always going to be to try to win the game. We will continue to evaluate disruptive behavior, and players will continue to not be eligible for Aegis if they AFK the game. Role balance. We're going to hold... Honestly, with Aegis of Valor, I really would like the number rates for when it comes to choosing a priority role rather than being autofilled, because it bothers me not knowing and not having gotten it yet, even with as few matches as I've played, considering I only play a priority role, which is jungle. Role balance. We're going to hold a little bit on taking a definitive stance on which roles are most and least powerful, as we don't feel any are so out of line that we need to act now. There's been a lot of debate on which roles that's a typo. That should be R, not N. Which roles are most and least powerful? There are a lot of things we think require some time for players to learn, adapt to, and optimize, but so far we've been pretty happy with how the game, especially in the mid game, which feels a bit more strategic, should I greed tempo and get an overgrowth proc here? Overgrowth? Do you mean, what's it called? Demolish. Overgrowth proc. What? Overgrowth doesn't even, it's just a pass. It doesn't even proc. Overgrowth just gives you HP for killing minions. That's a funny typo. I know it's not as funny as I'm enjoying it as, but still. Or should I push the next wave and try to get that turret chunk for gold? Wait, what? What is this typo? This actually shouldn't be demolished either. What the fuck? There are two things that are called overgrowth now, aren't they? I know there's the rune. I'm forgetting what the second one is. Overgrowth. God, I can't remember. It's driving me nuts. Anyways, I'll move on. One of the other things that we think has been working well is how each role feels a lot more individualized and distinct. When a role feels powerful, we want it to feel powerful for a unique reason, not just because it has more gold. And we feel pretty good about how that's trending. Example, top being higher level, bot having more items, support controlling vision, mid having a lot of broader impact, jungle controlling objectives. Honestly, again, mostly norms so far this season, only done a handful of rank, but even in norms, the changes are still the exact same there. I'm feeling like I can actually scale in the mid game. Yes, I'm still ganking in early game, but and maybe it's just me actually farming more efficiently and effectively and reliably, but I'm coming out of early game with close to perfect CS a lot more often than the almost no times I was having last season as jungle clears, and still having lots of ganks as well, which, especially if I was ganking at all, I was not having close to perfect CS last season ever. Honestly, I would have trouble getting close to perfect CS last season even if I actively wasn't ganking at all on purpose. It was just never could get it right. But that's more of a me thing than a changes to the game thing. Tower durability. While we've seen many comments about turret squishiness, early metrics aren't suggesting any urgent issues for now. First towers fall at a similar time relative to lane start as they did last year, and laner towers fall somewhat later than before while rewarding partial pushes. Later towers, not laner towers. Fuck me. With crystalline overgrowth and plating gold. While rewarding partial pushes with crystalline overgrowth and plating gold. There are, of course, many factors besides the tower destruction timestamp, so we'll revisit this as we get more detailed data over 26.2. While I am actually seeing top lane towers, when there's a one-sided matchup happening, not fall dramatically before 13, 14 minutes, towers do feel squishier. Tier 1s do feel squishier. I don't understand why they're not falling sooner. I guess minion waves are spawning faster, so there's less time to hit on the tower before the next wave gets there. I'm trying to think. That's probably it. And the fact that you get back the lane faster as well because of the home guard. Support quest usability. We've seen feedback that it's confusing to switch control ward hotkeys mid-game, and it's disruptive for control wards to move from your inventory to the new quest active slot halfway through a match. It's also been mentioned that it's annoying to have to start a game in order to change this new hotkey. Yeah, they really need to update the hotkey buttons in the fucking home client. The fact that not everything is there is annoying. And we 100% agree. So to address these issues, because I literally load into Practice Tool to make changes to shit, and it's not the most tedious thing, but it is annoying. So to address these issues, we've included a few fixes in this patch and another coming in the following one. First, you can now double bind the role quest slot, so you'll be able to set your preferred hotkey to both the role slot and the item slot where you use to hold it in your inventory. We're also adding the role quest hotkey to the client keybinds menu so you can make your changes before you hit the rift. They need to just add everything. Really, why not just have everything? Make it simple. Have it literally copy and paste the exact same options in the home client, please. Whatever. Finally, in the following patch, maybe that's the thing that's coming next in 26.3. 26.03. Finally, in the following patch, we're moving control wards to the support role quest slot at the start of the game instead of halfway through the match when the quest completes. That's an entirely reasonable thing. This change should allow support players to more easily build up muscle memory. I'm hoping that the support quest starts getting low rank supports to start buying control wards. I'm still seeing so many games where supports still just, I mean, again, it's early, but I feel like low ranked supports are gonna feel like they have no support quest besides the one that they had the last year. Because no changes to their support quest, because most of them don't buy control wards, and they definitely don't buy enough control wards to warrant needing a separate slot for it. Like, they aren't caring enough about control wards to really feel an impact from that, or the lowered cost. Like, higher levels rank supports, yes, they're going to feel that, but lower rank ones are going to feel like they have no changes to their role quest this season. And I feel like, considering most players are low rank, that could lead to a lot of feels bad moments for support players that feel like everybody else got new stuff and they didn't, regardless of whether or not they're weaker or not. And they're not weaker, it's support role. Support role's really strong when played well. Alright, champion changes. Aatrox. Is that a clickable thing? Oh, it is. Okay, didn't know that was a clickable button. They are. Alright, Aatrox. Aatrox has struggled to find a place on the Rift in the new season, with split pushing on the rise and fewer chances to flex his team fighting strengths. We're giving him some additional power this patch, primarily in the jungle where his growing audience has been kneecapped, as well as in the top lane where he could use more ways to benefit from experience. We hope this satiates Aatrox players, especially those with endless hunger, because the new item is really good on him, I assume. I haven't seen really much of any Aatrox well, I saw him a couple days ago, actually, finally. He was annoyingly hard to kill. I don't think he had endless hunger yet, though, but I could be wrong. Haven't seen much of him, only seen him like once or twice so far this season. Passive Deathbringer stance, his passive. But bonus magic damage based on target max health, going from 4 to 8% to 4 to 10%. Oh, that's less than expected. They were saying that they were making it 4 to 12%. That's either a typo or they reduced it last minute. Q, the Darkened Blade. Bonus damage to monsters going from 15 to 25. Ashe. Ashe is underperforming in the new season, so we're here to bring her back up to her former power level. We like that she has a strong affinity for buying attack speed, so we're just making those purchases multiply a little bit harder. Base stats: attack damage growth 3 to 3.5. Excuse me. Gwen Jungle is skyrocketed in both pick rate and win rate. While we're excited to see her loving the new season and snipping from dusk till dawn, we need to make sure she's not turning all opponents, especially jungle camps, into paper. Her passive, 1,000 Cuts, is getting monster damage cap changed from 5 plus 10% AP to 3 plus 5% AP. We'll see how strong that is. I don't think it's going to be the most impactful because her early clear will be the least affected. I mean, she'll feel it because it's every auto and multiple times on Q, but 2 damage less on everything does add up pretty quick since it's every auto and most ability damage, but shouldn't be that impactful in early game. Should be much more impactful in late game, but also the jungle pet's doing more damage based on AP scaling, so that shouldn't really be an issue overall. She should be relatively the same. She should be a tiny bit less powerful. Jace Jungle, aka Jungle Jace, JJ, has become extremely popular and is much too strong. He's basically only used in the Apex ranks, at which point he's being abused absurdly, apparently, like meta-defining, hyper-meta jungler in Apex tiers. One of those two things is awesome. One of those two things is awesome and the other isn't. We'd like to retain JJ, if they did do it, as a viable option in the jungle, but without him dominating the competition. So we're delivering a light nerf that's intended to bring him more in line with other junglers. Q to the Skies and Shock Blast are both going from bonus damage to monsters 50 to 25. Considering his win rate and low ELO is ass in jungle, this is going to make it even more ass, but in high ELO, it's still going to be really impactful, but we'll see if it neuters him entirely. I don't think it will. I'm hearing differing things. Riot says Jungle Jace in Apex tiers is ridiculously strong meta defining, but then like Skill Capped is saying it's subpar, but I also know Skill Capped doesn't really pay much attention to Apex tiers anymore. They specialize in low rank stuff, so I don't know. We'll see. It's definitely not going to be good in low ELO because it already wasn't. Lilia. Lilia has been in a dream since the changes to the Rift. Unfortunately, we need to wake her up as it's become a nightmare for her opponents. We want her to maintain her spot as our premier in and out skirmisher in the jungle, but without her prancing out of control. We are looking to nerf her ability to stay topped up as well as bring down some of her late game damage. Passive, Dream Laden Bow. Heal against large monsters going from 39. They're reducing her AP scaling from 15% AP to 9% AP. And Q Blooming Blows is having its AP ratio drop from 35% AP to 30% AP. Malphite. These nerfs are much too... Like, I've been waiting for these nerfs. I don't think they're even strong enough, especially in jungle, but I don't like dealing with Malphite, especially in the jungle. He just walks out, hits R, kills a later. It's kind of fucking ridiculous. There's really no real counterplay to it. Malphite's been a front runner on the Rift for a while, both in top and in jungle. We're actually very happy that he's found the real audience in the jungle. That said, he's still overperforming. That's honestly an understatement by a lot. So we need to bring him down now while still leaving him with 2 roles to play. To do that, we're reducing some of his trading and clearing damage while retaining his high durability to physical damage and strong engage power. Strong is also an understatement. It's unstoppable. We're also hitting jungle a little more as it's meant to be slightly weaker than his top lane as opposed to slightly stronger, which is currently the case. His W Thunderclap is getting its monster damage reduced from 2 times to 1.8 times. E Ground Slam is having its mana cost increased from 50 to 50 to 50, 55, 60, 65, 70. So up to plus 20 at max rank. Damage is having its base dropped from 80, 120, 160, 200, 240 to 60, 95, 130, 165, 200. And then his scalings are staying the same on E. And then R Unstoppable Force is having its cooldown changed from 130, 105, 80 to 130, 115, 100. It's up 20 seconds in the later ranks. And it's the same at rank 1. Master Yi. Master Yi has been struggling as a result of the changes in the new season. That is not the experience I have been dealing with. We're looking to return some of his power so that he can keep up with other junglers and better live up to his full hyper carry potential. Armor growth going from 4.2 to 4.5. Jeez, yawning a lot today. Q Alpha Strike. On-hit damage mod going from 65% to 75%. Nunu and Willump. Nunu and Willump are devouring the competition in the new season, so we're here to bring them back to a fairer level of power. To do that, we're reducing a mix of the PvP and PvE power out in their kits to give opponents a fighting chance. Q Consume is going up 1 second at all ranks on the cooldown, which is definitely nice. W biggest snowball ever. Jeez Louise. Fuck me. Maximum damage is going from 180, 225, 270, 315, 360 to 150, 195, 240, 285, and 330. Believe it's down 30 at every rank. And then E, Snowball Barrage. Damage per hit going from 16, 24, 32, 40, and 48. To 14, 21, 28, 35, and 42. I believe they're also hitting the scaling as well, down to 9% AP. But I can't remember exactly, and they've clearly left it off. Which I believe is a typo. Hitting the base damage this little would not really touch E damage at all. So they've definitely likely hitting the AP scaling still. But I could be wrong. Maybe they decided not to hit the scaling anymore. Sivir. Sivir has become an extremely dominant ADC pick regardless of whether or not she buys Essence Reaver. So it's time to bring her down a notch. Since she has very strong wave control and great damage scaling, we're looking to bring down her top end a little. Base stats. Attack speed growth going from 2% to 1.6%. And armor growth going from 4.45 to 4.0. Smolder. As expected, Smolder has become much more powerful. Much more powerful with the new Essence Reaver and increased minion counts. Yeah, stacking champions are definitely enjoying the faster minion waves. Since we've tuned our systems to our liking for now, it's time to take stock of individual champions, Smolder being one. We want to make sure Smolder's strong late game damage has durability trade-offs even when buying the occasional HP item. Base stats, armor growth 4.7 to 4.0. Honestly, having a 4.7 armor growth is kind of fucking ridiculous on an ADC. Taliyah. Taliyah has been missing from the jungle as of late, and the gameplay changes for the new season didn't help her. Quite the opposite, actually. To that end, we want to get her rocking and rolling in the jungle again, so we're buffing up her mid-game clear speeds to help her out. Honestly, I don't understand how she's the one AP jungler that didn't get assisted by the fact that AP junglers are doing better from jungle pet scaling being uncapped. But, yeah. I think maybe she's just getting played poorly. I don't really know. It doesn't make sense that she's doing worse. It doesn't make sense that she's not doing better, but it doesn't make sense that she's doing worse. Q Threaded Volley. Bonus damage to monsters going from 20 to 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. And up 5 at every rank. Empowered boulder damage is still increased by 80% to primary target. E Unraveled Earth, monster damage modifier going from 190% to 225%. Honestly, I might put some time into Taliyah again starting tomorrow. I do enjoy her, as bad as I am with her W. Varus. Varus isn't doing very well in the new season, so we're here to lift up his 2 primary builds, On Hit and AD Caster. Varus, I think they should have sat on a little bit longer. I think he just needs more time. They definitely need to do something about Varus's top lane. This is buffing his top lane even more, which is already a problem. He's pretty much impossible to deal with in top lane under a lot of situations. Maximum charge base damage going from 80, 150, 220, 290, 360 to 80, 160, 240, 320, and 400. Up 40 at max rank. W Blighted Quiver, on hit base damage going from 6, 14, 22, 30, 38 to 8, 17, 26, 35, and 44. Up 6 at max rank. These are definitely going to impact top lane Varus in a really ridiculous way. I think last I heard he had like a 52% win rate in top lane, which is kind of fucking ridiculous. And he also doesn't go fucking ADC items. You know, he doesn't go on hit crit or lethality in top lane like he does in bot lane. He goes AP in top lane. I mean, he can do the ADC builds in top lane as well, just as fine, but the fact that he's going AP in top lane most times, and the fact that he's ridiculously buffed by, what's it called? Dusk and Dawn, is making him even more painful to deal with in top lane at the moment. Viego's performing worse this season due to direct adjustments and overall game-wide changes. As a result, he needs some power added back in, both compensating some crit scaling that he lost and generally just making him a better fighter. Attack speed growth going from 2.25 to 2.75. I do like that. Q Blade of the Ruin King, percent HP on hit bonus crit damage mod going from 50 to 70%. It'll be, I want to say, 5% lower than it was before the season. I want to say it was at 75 before. And then active bonus crit mod on the active Q going from 50 to 60%. Excuse me. Zed's recent jungle changes didn't affect him as strongly as we had anticipated. No fucking shit. And players have noticed, resulting in a resurgence of pick and ban rate. We'd like to slow his clear and lower his potency, this time with more accuracy, now that we have a better understanding of how to tune him in the jungle. His passive monster damage mod for Contempt for the Weak is going from 1.8 times to 1.2 times. Down to items. In 16.1, we added 9 new items. We're mostly happy with how they landed in terms of users and use cases, but there's definitely some balance work to be done here. This patch, we're adjusting Bandle Pipes down and Fiend Hunter Bolts plus Hex Optics C44 up, as we think they're furthest off from where we wanted them to be. Sorry about that. At the moment, we're also keeping our eyes on some of the other item cases, like the fast power spike offered by Dusk and Dawn. I'm worried that when they nerf Dusk and Dawn, they're going to hit the ability haste, which is the thing I like the most about it. And I'm concerned about that, because it's usually one of the first things they hit on items like that. Or the distribution of power on Endless Hunger between damage, haste, and Omnivamp. What are they focusing on when they're thinking about nerfing Endless Hunger? I have to be concerned about that because I'm using it a lot. The synergy between Diadem of Songs and Echoes of Helia is very cool, but it's something we'll be monitoring to make sure that it doesn't become the only way to build a champion to exist between the Mage and Enchanter space. Bandle Pipes. The pipes are sounding good on the Rift, but they're crowding out other support options due to their low price point. While we're excited for their newfound popularity, we don't want them to completely steal the spotlight. Price is going from 2,000 to 2,300 gold, and the combined cost is going up from 500 to 800, so plus 300 gold in overall. I think it was smart for them to launch this item with a price, having the price be too low, because it got it immediate attention. I don't think normally this item would have gotten attention immediately if they launched it at a reasonable price point. That way people got to wanted to mess around with it right away because it was a little bit overpowered, and they realized how strong the effects actually are and have their eye on it now, and will still keep using it even now that it's going to a much more balanced state. Fiend Hunter Bolts and Hex Optics literally just need to have their base stats fully swapped. From a visual visual design standpoint, Fiend Hunter Bolts should be the one with AD. They're a physical thing that you throw at an enemy and it does damage. They should have damage on the base stats. Hex Optics is literally a fucking scope. It is not an item that you would attach to a gun that would increase the damage of the gun. It should not have AD on the base stats. Furthermore, Hex Optics is just a worse version of Infinity Edge. It is literally Yuntal Wild Arrows 1.0 problem again. The only thing that makes this slightly better than Infinity Edge, and it is not enough to make it actually better than Infinity Edge, is the fact that it's so ridiculously cheap at 2,800 gold for 55 fucking AD. It should not be that cheap for 50, nonetheless 55 AD and a damage increasing passive. That's a little. The cost is the only part of it that's insane. Everything else about it makes no sense from the design standpoint of a scope giving extra damage via the AD stat that it has. It would make a lot more sense if if Hex Optics was a Zeal item that made it easier to attack faster at long range. So it was a Zeal item, gave attack speed and crit, and then Fiend Hunter Bolts gave attack damage and crit, and no attack speed, and therefore this could be a legitimate alternative to Infinity Edge for some champions like Twitch and Ashe and Caitlyn and any other champ or not Caitlyn, sorry. But this is the Caitlyn one. But like the champions that want to hit R and go ham, Fiend Hunter Bolt's ultimate passive gives power in a way that actually it would need buffs still to the passive. I think instead of being 3 auto attacks, it should be like 3 or 4 seconds of auto attacks. That way it also incentivizes building speed, because if you have more attack speed and you have 4 seconds to use the passive, then the more attack speed you have, the more attacks you can get in 4 seconds. And that scales much better. But that would actually make it a viable alternative to Infinity Edge on specific champs. I don't think, Hex Optics is just never going to be a viable alternative to Infinity Edge like it currently is in the space to try to be, because even for its, significantly lower gold cost, its passive gives up to 10% extra max damage, but it's up to 10%, meaning it can be 0% or it can be less than 10%. And even if you're getting the max 10% bonus damage, if you're hitting a crit hit and you're getting that 10%, that max cap 10% increase, you're doing 220% damage on that crit hit. If you have Infinity Edge instead of Hex Optics, you're doing 230% damage with that crit hit, regardless of the range that it's at. So if a diver like Vi jumps you in melee range and sticks to you, or Mbessa, or anybody, you still do max damage with Infinity Edge. With Hex Optics, if fucking Vi jumps you and sticks to you successfully, you're doing almost no bonus damage, and you're just really not getting much out of it. You're getting a stat stick that's cheap, and the problem with it is that unlike AP items, which item ecosystem is a prime example of an item system that is forcing you to take 2 items that, being Rabadons and a percent penetration item, that forces you to limits your build options, because you have 2 items that have to go in 3rd slot and 4th slot almost 100% of games, and then 1st slot for a lot of AP champs has to be a mana item, which limits your build options even further. The problem is crit items in regards to viable options compared to Infinity Edge is even more limited, because at least with AP items you still have 5 item slots. With Hex Optics, even now that ADCs have 6 full item slots because boots are moved over, it doesn't matter. You don't want more than 4 crit items. So having an extra item slot doesn't fucking help you, because you're not going to buy a 5th crit item, because it's a wasted gold efficiency stat. Having 5 crit items, having 125% crit chance does nothing for you. Riot either needs to add a crit conversion ratio for all crit items if you go above 100% crit ratio, which would then force changes on Yasuo and Yone and Senna, which is a whole different story. We'll not get into that problem with this option, but there needs to be something that either incentivizes building more than 100% crit chance to make it so that you want to add Hex Optics to a build that has Infinity Edge. Because if you look at a crit build, you've got starting item, which Twitch sometimes wants Hex Optics first, but honestly Twitch does better with Yuntal. because Yuntal gives him that burst of attack speed for several seconds, right when Twitch enters a fight, hits his R button, which Fiend Hunter Bolts is now buffing further. He then triggers Yuntal Wild Arrow's passive on that first auto attack with his R, which then gives him an extra 30% attack speed, which Hex Optics, just the extra 10% damage isn't making up for that extra 30% attack speed that Yuntal is giving you, even if you're getting the max 10% damage bonus. And then the other option that would still be a better slot than Hex Optics for first option on champs like Twitch that do kind of sometimes take Hex Optics, or they're only doing it because it's the new thing and not because it's actually better, is Stormrazor. And Stormrazor is still better because it gives you more move speed for better kiting. You can stay in range. You can stay, if champions try to run away, you can stay on top of them better. If they try to chase you down, you can run away better. So if you don't go Yuntal on Twitch, you want Stormrazor instead. Still, both are significantly better than what Hex Optics offers, because Hex Optics gives you potential value that is still weaker even at max value, versus Yuntal and Stormrazor, which give you guaranteed value at all points, and then Infinity Edge is guaranteed value that's significantly better as well. And if you look at it, and again, if you look at a crit build, you have first slot item, which in a lot of champions is Yuntal and now Stormrazor as well. And if it's not those, it's something like Kraken Slayer. And then you've got items like, and then you've got your second item, which is usually a Zeal item on champions that go Stormrazor, Yuntal, or Kraken. You either go Infinity Edge second item or a Zeal item second item, and then your third item is either Infinity Edge, Zeal item, or percent penetration item. And then your fourth item is either Infinity Edge, Zeal item if you haven't gotten one yet, which at that point you should have a Zeal item on your second or third slot. You should not be doing your first Zeal item at fourth slot. So you're not a Zeal item on your fourth slot realistically. But fourth item is either, if you don't have it yet, Infinity Edge, or it can. And honestly, most ADCs should already have their percent penetration item via their third slot. But if you don't have that yet in third slot, you get that in fourth slot as well. And then the other option is a utility crit item like Shield Bow, which is, again, still significantly better than Hex Optics because it gives you utility via the massive shield. It's just not even close in my opinion, and I think Hex Optics is going to settle into a situation where it's exactly like Yuntal Wild Arrows 1.0 when it did dot damage, where it's just never used because Infinity Edge slots it out. Because you can't, even with ADCs being able to go an extra item slot over every other role, you only need 4 crit items, and you're never going to buy a 5th crit item. Like, even on Yone and Yasuo, who actually have bonus crit scaling for going above 100% crit rate, they never go above 2 crit items. And they actually have the scaling, and they still don't want to do it. They'd rather go defense items or utility items. They want lifesteal via Bloodthirster, or a utility and defense via Death Stance, or a fucking full-on tank item like Jack shows. Like, and ADCs are going to be the same thing. Even if they had crit scaling for a bonus for over 100%, converting over 100% crit chance to extra AD, they'll still want defense items for their 5th and 6th slot. They still never want a 5th crit item. It's just they're going to have to update Hex Optics at some point, because it's going to be the same issue that Yuntal Wild Arrows 1.0 with the dot damage had. Infinity Edge slots it out every single time. And the only exception is maybe champs like Draven and Samira. But even then, it's like you've still got better options. Maybe they'll take it 6th item. Because again, it's not even guaranteed value like other options that they could go. It's potential value, assuming you can stay at max kiting range. Which for Draven is a bit more realistic. For Samira, not so much. Samira likes to be a lot closer. That's why she's a whole thing with her being able to do melee attacks. But yeah, it's a thing. Let's actually read the changes now. I've rambled and ranted for enough. Fiend Hunter Bolts. Fiend Hunter Bolts is doing what it's supposed to do, but it's not quite well enough to get picked over its competition. We're buffing it up a little bit all around on the bolts to help it hold up better against other Zeal items. Attack speed 40 to 45%. Damage multiplier for guaranteed critical strikes going from 75% to 80%. That means it'll be doing more damage than crit hits did last season, finally, because it was doing the same as last season. And then bonus true damage for critical strikes, 10% to 15%. And then Hex Optics C44. Hex Optics has found a place in some situational builds for longer range champions, but is a bit too niche and a little weaker than needed for it to function for most of the marksman roster. So we're giving it a general appreciable AD buff and easing the range requirement, going from attack damage 50 to 55 to distance required for max damage amp 700 to 600. Like, again, I like the design standpoint of Hex Optics. I like what it's supposed to do. It's just, it ends up ending in the crit items. You can't build more than 4, shouldn't build more than 4, and because of that, there's no real room for it. It would be a bit more viable if it was a Zeal item, because it would actually be really viable if it was a Zeal item. It would be incredibly viable if it was a Zeal item, if it offered attack speed and crit instead of AD and crit. It would be extremely viable. Fiend Hunter Bolts would be still a little bit weaker in its current state than Infinity Edge if it was AD and crit instead of attack speed and crit, but it would actually be potentially viable on specific champions. And they could buff up the passive to make it a genuinely viable option over Infinity Edge. If it was AD and crit rather than attack speed and crit. Like, and again, from a visual design standpoint, it makes more sense for Fiend Hunter Bolts to have AD on its stat line, and it makes no sense for Hex Optics, a fucking scope, to have AD on its stat line. It's not increasing the damage of any gun you attach the scope to. And if it is, because of some bullshit magic reason, it's not made clear by the fucking picture or the name. Like, yes, if it did increase damage by attaching this scope to your gun, then it would make a bit more sense, but we've never seen this, we've never dealt with this specific scope in any lore situations, so we don't know it does that, so it's safe to assume that it doesn't, because it's just a scope. It would make more sense for this item to be a Zeal item and offer attack speed, and then have the exact same passive. Alright, skipping ARAM and Arena, and I believe that's everything. They're changing up duo rules for Apex tiers. That's definitely necessary. The range was too wide. Don't care about Swift play. Summoner's Rift Cup is coming up. WASD, that's relevant. We recently enabled WASD everywhere outside of Ranked and have been closely monitoring it across all champions and classes. While it has remained within our overall balance expectations, Melee champions on WASD have particularly struggled to perform compared to playing with point-and-click controls. As a result, we are removing the WASD-specific adjustment for how fast a player can attack while holding down movement keys for all Melee champions, while slightly lowering it for most non-marksman ranged champions. The majority of marksman champions have landed about where we wanted, so we won't be making changes to any of them at this moment. That's a lie. They made changes to 3 of them. We'll get to that in a bit. We'll continue to look at both melee and ranged champions individually to see if they need further fine-tuning. Attack delay while moving for melee champions removed. Attack delay while moving for non-marksman ranged champions reduced. Attack delay while moving for marksman unchanged, except for Ezreal, Kai'Sa, and Kindred, which were slightly reduced. I don't think Ezreal needs his reduced. He doesn't even focus on attack speed level attacking. So I don't really understand why that's necessary. Like, yes, he does increase his attack speed technically, but not in the way where he's focusing on spamming attacks. Kai'Sa makes sense. She's a reasonably mobile ADC that's also low range as well. And Kindred is a jungle ADC, so jungle marksman, so who's also reasonably high mobility. So that makes sense as well. Who's also, well, I wouldn't call her low range, especially once she gets 4 marks. But even before 4 marks, she's not low range. But Yeah. Bug fix and quality of life changes. As far as I've been able to tell, there's no quality of life changes this patch. Something Riot hasn't done yet is they need, for custom item pages, they need to add Hextech Gunblade to the custom item pages. It is not in there currently, and it's driving me nuts because I can't add it to my builds. New skins. The new Galio one looks great. I know people are liking the Ornn one. I'm not. It looks funky being a... I think they should have made him full robot. I would have preferred that a lot. The Briar one's looking good. Samir one's looking... The effects look good. The base model looks a little plain to me, in my opinion. But I'm not a big fan of Battle Academia, so I'm biased. The Viego one is truly amazing. They have really hit the mark with this Exalted skin. Still hoping, especially after they went back and updated the Jinx Exalted skin, that they'll go back and update the Set Exalted skin. Because the Set Exalted skin is in desperate need of literally any changes. It is so fucking boring. It is not even close to his legendary Spirit Blossom skin. It's... even calling his Spirit Blossom skin night and day to his Exalted wouldn't do it justice for how ass his Exalted skin is in comparison. Like, you really can't even enjoy any of the special effects on his Exalted skin. The few special effects that are even there. Like, I really want them to update the Set Exalted skin so badly. I really want to like that skin, and I really can't currently. And it's driving me nuts, especially for how much it costed. It's not around anymore. Chromos look really good as well this time around. Especially the Galio ones, and the Ornn ones too. Alrighty, that's it. Have a good day.